Nebraska and Cincinnati. Oh boy, Zack, the Nebraska fans very confident in this one. I think they're starting to feel, I wouldn't say less confident, but taking it a little bit more seriously now. Coming in closer to this, the Cincinnati fans are starting to perk up a bit and let everybody know that they are here and that they feel confident going into this Nebraska game. Not all of them. There's some of them that are kind of like, yeah, I think Nebraska will win. However, to me, this is a game that if this is the Nebraska we think they're supposed to be this season, I understand, like, don't get me wrong. I understand, kind of slow starts a little bit and stuff like that. But overall, this Nebraska team, Dana Holgerson, I understand if the defense is a little bit slower to getting adjusted with John Butler and stuff like that, or maybe they give up some big runs or something with the defensive line, some concerns there. I'm going to have some grace for the defense. But overall, this offense, Dylan Raiola, offensive line put together with Rocco Spindler on there. You get the Alabama transfer Pritchett. You have Dane Key on the outside, Emmitt Johnson coming back. This Nebraska offense should score 30-plus points against Cincinnati. Otherwise, it's a disappointment to me.
Yeah, I think this is a high scoring game, but I think I would just caution Nebraska fans a little bit because I think Cincinnati is better than people are giving them credit for. 18 returning starters on a team that ended 5-7. Many of those losses coming off just struggling at the end of halves and blowing leads. So they have decent talent. Right? Like Tyree Walker and Evan Pryor, former Big Ten backs. Joe Royer, who was first team All Big 12 a year ago, was playing at Ohio State. So, I mean, they've got, P4 Big Ten level guys. They've got a veteran offensive line. They have a returning quarterback in Brendan Sorsby. Again, Indiana transfer. Sorsby was there a year ago, played fairly well. So I think it's easy to look at the team and think their record and look at their record, think, they're not that good. I think this is actually a tougher game than maybe at least I gave it credit for. So I think the line is right, 6.5. I think you're right on too. Like, I think the defense, there's some question marks for Nebraska. I know there's a lot of excitement, Van Poppel and all those boys on the defensive line, but they're untested. Like, they're young, not a ton of starts. So I just think this could be a game where you see Cincinnati have some firepower here. I think they can probably run the ball well. I think they might be able to throw the ball well at times. And I think they're going to score more than people expect. But I agree with your assessment. I think at least 30 points for Nebraska. I think you look at this receiving core again. We talked about Rutgers having an underrated receiving core. This receiving core might be top 5 in conference. You look at Dane Key, you look at Neziah Hunter. The guy that I always is it Ja'Cory that I'm always not Ja'Cory. Who am I thinking of? Ja'Cory Barney.
Yeah.
Great group of receivers. I think Dylan Raiola is good. I think this offensive line is set up to rock and roll. So my score prediction, 38-27. I think Nebraska covers late. I think they're up 4. I think they push it to 38-27. They get a pick to end it, and they walk out winning on a neutral field.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see what Nebraska looks like coming right out of the gate because they need to run the football well in this one. You obviously can't just throw everything on Dylan Raiola's shoulders, but they need to do that. Obviously, Eckler, they need to have more disciplined special teams this season. That's going to be a huge thing that I'm looking for this Nebraska team. How not just like is special teams good or not, but just how disciplined is it? Are they ready for the moment? Are they ready to perform here on a neutral field? It's not this isn't like the primetime game of the week or anything like that, but still it's a neutral field. It's on Thursday night. People are going to be looking at this one quite a bit. I am going to be looking as well as what does John Butler do with Brendan Sorsby. Now we saw Sorsby 2 years ago at Indiana, pretty athletic, does a lot with his feet, had nearly 500 rushing yards last season. He threw for more touchdowns and less interceptions than Dylan Raiola last year. There's an argument that Brendan Sorsby is a better quarterback than Dylan Raiola. I think Dylan Raiola better talented, but so far the way that Sorsby has played in his careers, at least stat-wise, has been better and more experienced than Dylan Raiola. Again, I'm not saying that he's better than Dylan Raiola. I'm just saying if you look at the stats and stuff like that, it would seem to indicate so. Well, Dylan Raiola, one, needs to prove himself in this game. He doesn't have Satterfield anymore as the offensive coordinator. He has Dana Holgerson now. Can Dylan Raiola come out there and just start firing it all over the field? Emmitt Johnson, what's that offensive line look like? I know I said Pritchett earlier. They still have technically a left tackle competition going on there. I think it's going to be either Pritchett or that Gutlong, I think is how you pronounce his name. One of those two. I think they have 3 guys listed there. We'll see what it looks like. Spindler starting for sure. There's no question there. But we'll see what this offensive line for Nebraska looks like. But overall, I trust Dana Holgerson. Overall, I trust the talent of Dylan Raiola. They just need to put it all together in this one. And Zack, I want to know what this punter for Nebraska looks like. Archie Wilson, he broke down crying when they asked him, which don't get me wrong, I mean, I was coming from Australia and I was an 18-year-old too. I'd be missing my family as well. So I don't miss it, or I think he's 19 years old. So I don't blame him at all. But what does the punting situation look like for Nebraska in this one? If they don't move the ball, if they get out some 3-and-outs or something like that, if they need to pin Cincinnati deep in the red zone, that's going to be important. However, the most important player to look for on this Cincinnati team is one Dante Corleone. First team all Big 12 last season. Zack, he has had 3 or more sacks every single year he has played in college. The past 3 years, he's had 3 or more sacks every single season. And then on top of that, there was only one kicker in college football last year that nailed every single kick, every single point after attempt that he had. Do you know who that kicker was, Zack? I'm
going to assume that the setup is Cincinnati's kicker.
Yes, Charlotte's kicker from last season, Stephen Rusnak, 100%, 3  50-yard field goals, 3 for 3 on 50-plus yard field goals last season. For that reason, I will be saying Nebraska 31, Cincinnati goes crazy with the kicking, and they score 23 points in this one.
Good pick. Good pick.
Thank you. I did my research on the punter and the kicker. All right, so don't say I don't know players on certain teams.
I think you channeled your inner Jim Tressel there, because the punt is the most important play in football.
Listen, the Maryland athletic director Jim Smith was wearing a sweater vest on that radio interview with IMS, so it had me thinking. All right, that's all I'll say. Fair. It had me thinking. Fair. So overall, though, Nebraska really does need to figure out what they're going to do with Sorsby, right? Yeah. There's a lot of talk about the defense is going to be more aggressive. They're going to be playing more fast-paced, which is good, but I mean, like every new defensive coordinator says that. My biggest thing, though, is that they don't play undisciplined, that they don't get too aggressive, because this Nebraska defense is going to struggle with the Cincinnati offense. They throw a lot of screen passes. Brendan Sorsby is not afraid to take off with his legs, and if you get too aggressive, Sorsby and those speedy running backs, well, at least what they've had in the past. I didn't look at their running back. I apologize, but the guys they have on their team, they're going to make them pay this season if they don't do that. And then finally, my last point here, Zack. I know I'm making a lot of points. Okay, last one. Is it okay if I make one more?
Go for it.
Okay. The Cincinnati defensive coordinator, Tyson Veit. It's his second year ever being a defensive coordinator. You best believe that Dana Holgerson is going to eat his lunch in this one. That's why I'm saying Nebraska's got to score 30 or more points. It's the second year as a defensive coordinator. Scott Satterfield's on the hot seat. Shouldn't even worry about Cincinnati in this one. Go out there and score 30 points. Take out Cincinnati. Love to see it, Nebraska. Do it, Cornhuskers. We're corn believers. Or at least Zack is. Yes. Maybe not as much as me.
We're kind of corn believers. You know what we're really believers in, though? Dave Valinsky being awesome. Because he just put in a $9.99 super chat. Thanks, Dave. He says, while we learn at Stanford football is going to have a long season, the only thing to get exciting about is the antics of the Stanford Junior Marching Band. By the way, the tree is the mascot of the band. I did not know that.
Well, I was thinking about the tree, and I was also thinking about the NCAA football game in the past. Did you ever play when you could play in mascot mode? I was thinking, if only Frank Wright had a whole bunch of those 99 overall trees he could just put out there instead of his quarterback who can't complete a pass and
he needs
everything
more
else.
He needs more trees for sure. Yeah. I
Yes, thank you for the super chat, Dave. We greatly appreciate that.
yeah. I was just gonna say I think the fact this is gonna be a more offensive game than I think people maybe realize. Especially if they're thinking about last year's Nebraska. Like I just don't think people realize how much they've upgraded at receiver. How much I think the continuity of the offensive line. Like I just think.
Well, and we also need to realize too. I've seen some people say like, Nebraska's not ready for a Big 12 opponent and stuff like that. I've seen some people saying that. Look at last year; they destroyed Colorado last year.
Yeah.
I mean, do we really honestly think the Cincinnati team is that much better than what Colorado was last year? I mean, I'm not trying to say Colorado was a juggernaut or anything like that, but they had more NFL talent than I think this Cincinnati team does. And I'm not trying to disparage Cincinnati. They have a few NFL talent guys on here. I mean, this Dante Corleone, he's going to be an NFL player. He's a good interior defensive lineman. I don't know how Ohio State let him get out of the state of Ohio anyway. That's a conversation for another day. But overall, Nebraska should not lose this game. I'm not going to say they shouldn't struggle because it's week one. Everybody has their struggles, but they should not lose this game.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a good game.
Justin Kane asks, how does the Nebraska schedule look this season? Easiest in the Big Ten, in my opinion, at least Big Ten wise. I won't say out of conference because, Indiana. But Big Ten wise, this is the easiest schedule in the Big Ten, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, sorry, Indiana fans. We'll talk about you on Tuesday night. Don't worry.
There you go.
All right. What'd you say your score prediction was one more time? I'm trying to write these down.
38-27.
38-27. Nebraska. All right. Hey, don't forget, join us on Wednesday night for Big Jeff's Insights. Since we have these games on Thursday night, we're going to do Big Jeff's Insights on Wednesday night, and he has a kind of a model and stuff that he goes through for predicting these games, and so Big Jeff is going to give his Big Jeff's predictions for some of the biggest games in the Big Ten and stuff like that. So come on Wednesday night. We'll continue to do it Thursday nights during the season, but just this week with Thursday night games and everything, it just worked out better to do it Wednesday night instead. If you listen on podcast, you'll get it in your feed Thursday morning, and you can listen to it then. Some of these games don't start until like 9 o'clock, so you'll be fine. You'll have time to listen to it on Thursday. So.